I was leaving a restaurant a short time ago. I went and picked up a sandwich. And on my way out, I was recognized by someone who looked at me, and I do think they were serious. Given the scowl, first, that they recognized me, and then they looked at me and said, "Aren't you afraid you're going to be disappeared?" And I chuckled. And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "You've been criticizing your president about tariffs. They disappear people who criticize them." I don't think this person was joking. This reminds me of the person I was at the airport the day after the election in 2024. I was headed to Tulsa, Oklahoma, standing at the urinal in the airport. Literally, I'm at a urinal in a bathroom, Concourse C, the Atlanta airport. Man stands behind me and says, "I hope you're happy with this election. It's the end of democracy." Literally stands behind me while I am peeing. He is yelling at me about the end of democracy. These people have lost their minds. And today this guy's like, "You're going to be disappeared for disagreeing with not the president, your president." He's your president too, buddy. We only have one. One at a time. It's a little bit wild to me. The left is having this mental breakdown now. Yes, I disagree with the president of the United States often. It is kind of wild to me. It's running about 50-50 right now between MAGA and anti-Trump hate mail. MAGA gets really defensive. And this is the way you can tell what's going on. You can tell when the president's supporters know that things aren't going well. They get very, very defensive, and you get lots of hate mail from the president's supporters. You bring up tariffs and how it's a bad idea, going to hurt the economy, anything like that, they come flooding in, angry. And it's always when they're on defense. When they're on offense, when things go well and you beg to differ, nobody says anything. It's when they're feeling not sure of themselves. With the left, it is every freaking thing. The left has no offset. They are in a perpetual state of anxiety, angst, and anger. Now you got Al Gore out there saying, "It's the Nazis." Did not see this coming. You know how you can tell that it's not the Nazis? You know how you can tell that you're not living in the second coming of the Third Reich? I guess this would be the Fourth Reich. You know how you can tell you're not doing that? Because you got to say it and lived. This isn't hard. This comes after Larry David's op-ed in the New York Times, "My Dinner with Adolf." You know, the funniest part about the whole "My Dinner with Adolf" thing from Larry David is how the New York Times, the editorial page, was like, "This is new. We don't often publish satire, but this is such a new, fresh..." Literally, the editorial page editor of the New York Times talking about, "This is new. We don't often publish satire, but this is just it's so fresh." No, this is the same tripe they did the first administration too. It's Adolf. And why is he doing it? Larry David is dragging Bill Maher for having the audacity to sit down and have dinner with Donald Trump. Now, funny thing happened on the way to the editorial page of the New York Times to write this. Bill Maher had a show on Friday, and do you know what Bill Maher did? Relentlessly ridiculed, chastised, and complained about Donald Trump. Relentlessly. Bill Maher was willing to have dinner with Donald Trump. And I don't know if you saw his interview, but Bill Maher was saying that, behind the scenes, Trump's not the person he is in public, and that was somewhat reassuring to him that the public persona of Donald Trump is different behind the scenes. And by the way, anyone who meets with the president comes away with that impression. His brash and braggadocious public persona that plays well with MAGA, that's not really him behind the scenes. He could be much more thoughtful, cerebral, and engaging with people. He also makes you feel like you're the center of the room. You're always center of attention. Well, Larry David didn't like that Bill Maher would do what? In the parlance of the left, what they do? Normalize Donald Trump. He didn't normalize Donald Trump. He attacked Donald Trump on Friday night. But God forbid you don't see Donald Trump as a Nazi, and that's ultimately what's happening here, is these guys on the left, they are emotionally invested in seeing Donald Trump as a Nazi. And they get mad when anyone says he's not. I have a friend who's a left-wing theologian, like real far left theologian. And he jokes that when you push up the comb, and he is joking, just to be clear here, he is joking. When you push up the comb over on Trump, you see the 666. He's the Antichrist. He's not joking about that. This guy today wanted to know if I'm going to be disappeared. You know, they're not disappearing anybody. Abrego Garcia, the MS-13 El Salvadorian illegal alien we all know and love as a Maryland man. If he was disappeared, why would so many Democrats be on a pilgrimage to El Salvador to meet with the man? They wouldn't know where he was. How can someone be disappeared when you know right where they are? How is it possible? I'm going to disappear you. Here's the address so you could tell everybody they can send care packages. I'm going to disappear the critics. You know where they get disappeared to? They get disappeared to MSNBC, where there are no ratings, so no one sees them. That's how they're disappearing critics of the administration. They're putting them on MSNBC so nobody can see them because of the ratings. Maybe CNN at this point. Good Lord. You know how, if this was really the Nazi regime, in all candor and honesty, if this was the Nazi regime, none of these people would be alive after saying it was the Nazi regime. To the extent that they would be alive, they would be living in a different country. Al Gore is not packing up and leaving this country. He's got his happy ending somewhere out there in a local massage place, I'm sure. If you know, you know. Al Gore is not packing up and leaving the United States of America. Larry David is not leaving Hollywood. You know, by the way, I would note that after October 7th of 2023, Jerry Seinfeld stood up for Jews in the Israeli community, went to Israel. Larry David didn't do a thing. Quiet. But he'll speak up if someone dares to try to normalize all. It's so brave of him. And, you know, this is the other thing that kind of gets me here is these people, they actually think that they're brave. Why are they brave? For parroting the conventional wisdom of the town they live in and of the cultural institutions they're connected with. It is not brave to say that Donald Trump is Adolf Hitler. You know what's brave? To go have dinner with Donald Trump, tell the world he's actually a reasonable person, and like Bill Maher did. That's bravery. Larry David's not going to get fired upon by the intellectual elite of Hollywood, New York, or Washington, D.C., but Bill Maher is, because he dares to criticize Donald Trump while also saying it turns out he's not who I thought he was. You are punished for bravery by the left. And if you don't parrot the line that he's Hitler, well, they don't take you seriously anymore. The American public didn't treat him like Hitler or a threat to democracy. And so what does the left do? The left doesn't treat the American people seriously. Look at Abrego Garcia. The left, the Democrats, are more interested in going to see Abrego Garcia than they are helping Americans right now, because the majority of Americans voted for Donald Trump. So the Democrats are like, well, screw y'all. Let's go hang out with the illegal alien in El Salvador. At least he gets it that Donald Trump is Hitler. You people put him back in office. It is wild to me. The Dow, this month, the Dow is having the worst April performance since the Great Depression. That is the lead story in the Wall Street Journal today. The Dow is having the worst performance since the worst April since the Great Depression. That's the lead headline in the Wall Street Journal. And what is the Democrats to do about it? Go to El Salvador to see that illegal immigrant who didn't vote for Donald Trump. These people are broken. This guy really thought that I would be disappeared for disagreeing with Donald Trump. If anything, it should shatter your worldview that we are in a Nazi state, that I can use a large and growing radio platform as a conservative to disagree with the president from the right, and I still have a job, and I'm not getting disappeared, and the ratings are doing great. But they've become emotionally invested in a talking point. And not only have they become emotionally invested in the talking point, but it's become an article of faith for them. You repeat it enough, you begin to believe it. And when anyone shatters your worldview on that, when anyone challenges you on that, the only way you can process it is that, well, they're a heretic. And if they're a heretic, what do you do to heretics? You become the one who punishes them. So Bill Maher can say Donald Trump's not Hitler, and the left has to behave like Hitler to Bill Maher. This is not, I find this to be the funny, deeply ironic thing that the left can't pick up on, is that when the people come out and normalize Donald Trump, say he's actually a normal guy, I disagree with him, it's the left behaving like the Nazis. They're the ones who want to silence. They're the ones who want to censor. They're the ones who want to cost you your job. They're the ones who want to cancel you for having the audacity of not towing the party line that Donald Trump is Hitler. The authoritarians are screaming that Trump's an authoritarian, and then they want to cancel you because you don't agree with them being an authoritarian. It's very authoritarian. They don't see it. They don't want to see it. They don't have the desire to see it. All they see is now their article of faith that Trump is Hitler. And what they don't see are the brown shirts coming to kill them, beat them, harass them, arrest them, or make them disappear. Because if he were Hitler, that's what would happen. But they can freely and bravely say what everyone else in Hollywood and the Democratic Party thinks with no repercussions because, surprise, he's not actually Hitler.